All right, Shalom. First and foremost, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Bracha Kudash. Double honors to the elders and the apostles of Great Millstone, and peace and blessings to the elect. And I was meditating on a topic dealing with Romans, the 11th chapter, and more specifically around the 33rd verse. Okay, as it goes into the riches, all right, the riches of the wisdom, okay, of Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahweh Shai, which the Lord has, blessed us with. He's opened up our minds to be able to receive that wisdom from the heavens and understand it. Even though we have a form of it that is easy to be understood to us, because the Lord has made it plain. All right, but all in all, if you really were to deal with the wisdom, all right, the true wisdom of the Lord in its highest form, a lot of those things would be far more than we can even handle. All right, certain things, concepts, certain aspects of just existence, spirits and all of these things, it would be too much for us to even understand, because in these mortal bodies, not only are we limited by our physical incapabilities, certain things we can't do, because as it tells you in the book of Jude, these bodies are likened onto chains of darkness. And what do chains do? Chains are to bind you. And when you're bound, that means you're restricted, you're restrained, you're limited in motion, in range, and in ability to do certain things, right? So in essence, these bodies that we are in limits us as to where our spirit is pure energy, and we have very strong spirits. We're limited in what we can actually do by these bodies that we're in, that are and likewise they're called darkness, as well, because within these bodies, as the Apostle Paul said, it is not I that sinneth, but sin that dwelleth in me. And what does that mean? That means that these mortal bodies that we are in are just that, they're mortal. And the fact that they are mortal means that they are tied to sin. Pursuant to Jeremiah 17:9, the heart is deceitful above all things and desperately wicked. Who may know it? The heart meaning the mind. Now, not necessarily the mind of the spirit, but the flesh. Okay, that's why it's mortal, because what are the wages of sin? The wages of sin is death. And so for these bodies to be mortal, it means that the flesh is susceptible to sin. This body was not made in a way where we would be totally incorruptible. It tells you in the book of Romans, the 8th chapter, that the creature, not willing, right? Not willing, was subject to vanity. And as Yahweh Shai said, the spirit indeed is willing, but the flesh is weak. Okay? But, all in all, still dealing with the bit that the Lord has given us, right? We know we have an unction from the Holy One, and we know all things. But in those all things, it's all things that has been given to us to know, right? Because the scriptures also tell us that we know in part, we prophesy in part. But the part that we know is the part that's been given to us, right? So even in that, we it's still a marvelous and beautiful thing that the Lord has opened up our vessels to hold the great wisdom and knowledge from the heavens. And that's something that, like I said, we are, you become used to it. If you remember, if you go back to when you first heard the prophet speaking or teaching, or when you were first newer and younger in the truth, everything was very, it was almost like an awe, right? How brothers were able to call and quote precepts and know where every verse was for whatever topic it was that you were dealing with. Whether it was a question or a point that was being made, they just knew exactly where to go, what precept to get, how to explain it. And so many things that you didn't even know were in the Bible, they were just pulling left and right and then giving you the understanding of it. And that's all through the Holy Spirit. But as over time, as you become a teacher, right? Hebrews 5:12, for the time ye ought to become teachers, ye have need that won't teach you again. So you have to first learn. So after you learn and you start to grow and you start to become a teacher yourself, you'll start doing those things. You start to learn precepts, understand the breakdowns, call and quote, and tie in different points. And then eventually it becomes almost like second nature, to where you don't even notice it. It's normal. But keep in mind that it's still a highly magnificent thing, the fact that we're able to deal with the word of the Lord as such. Because not everybody is able to go into the scriptures, into a particular verse, explain what it means, know what it actually says in the first place. The scriptures say, blessed is he that readeth, but a lot of people don't read. They don't study, they don't learn. They just follow. Okay? And at that, they follow the wrong thing, because if you follow without reading or studying or verifying, then how do you know that what you're following is true? So starting off, this is the book of Romans chapter 11, verse 33. It says, oh, the depth of the riches, both of the wisdom and knowledge of God. So it's likening the wisdom and knowledge of Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai to riches, deep riches at that, because it truly is. See, the thing is, the riches of this world, the physical carnal riches, those are just that, and they're vain, because they don't go with you. They're not eternal. They stay here on the earth. If you die, you don't take gold and silver and all these things with you. However, when you have the word of the Lord, which is the true riches, that stays with you. Okay, that stays with you here, spirit world, back, all of those things. The works you do in this truth, the things that you accomplish, those are the permanent things. All right, the things that pertain to the ministry and the work and the serving of the Lord, those are permanent things. Those are things that are known and established both on earth and in the heavens, and they remain so. But you deal with, for example, somebody that was a musician back during maybe back during the time when Yahweh Shai was on the scene. That's just that. The person was a musician in their time, and that's it. They don't get glorified for that when they go to the spirit world. They don't come to, hey, yeah, using, because at the end of the day, the main goal is not really to play music. The main goal is the word of the Lord. All right. It's like going into a household, all right, or a club that is a soccer club or a soccer family, and you go in there and you tell them about how you're this great, you're this great mathematician. I mean, they're gonna say, yeah, that's good and all, but quite frankly, we don't really care. That's not really, what we really care about. Now, if you come talking about soccer, and then they're gonna really acknowledge that, put that on the forefront, because that's what matters. So it's the same thing here. Those really, when you deal with high value individuals are individuals that are doing what the Most High is interested in. Okay, the things that please the Lord. That's why we give all diligence to make our calling and election sure, because the embodiment of that are the elect. That is the purpose of the elect. That is what they stand for. Those that wholly do the will of Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai. That's why he created them, to be those examples, to be the ones that would do it the way he wants it to be done, regardless of their faults or their shortcomings. So it goes on, it says, how unsearchable are his judgments and his ways past finding out. Yeah, we only know what the Lord wants us to know. At the end of the day, no, you're not gonna know. You're not gonna know past what the Lord has given you to know, and that's that. And that's why it's not for us to boast or be proud, because everything that we have and we know, it comes from the Lord. Nothing more, nothing less. And just as the Lord can give, he can take. It says, for whom, and that's why you're not really supposed to question the Lord's judgment, because the Lord's ways are past finding out. And it doesn't matter how straightforward or simple a decision may seem to you. If it was done and sanctioned by the Lord, it has a meaning and a purpose, as we're going to go into. It says, verse 34, for who have known the mind of the Lord, or who have been his counselor? Yeah, who have counseled the Lord? Who has sat down with the Lord? Even though the Lord has, counsels in the heavens, that is not for the angels to counsel him. Because the Lord, at the end of the day, already knows what he's going to do. Shows you how powerful he is. Verse 35, it says, or who have given to him, or who hath first given to him, and it shall be recompensed unto him again. In other words, who has lent unto the Lord that the Lord has to pay them back. If you trace the cycle back, well, we're doing all this work for the Lord, so in return, this is what the Lord is going to do. But matter of fact, let's trace that back a step. How are you able to do all these things for the Lord? The Lord gave you something. So if you trace it back, it always goes to, first and foremost, we were given something from the Lord in order to do something for the Lord. See? So who hath first given unto him, that it shall be recompensed unto him again. So really everything that we get from the Lord is mercy. The Lord chooses, oh, you know what? I want to give you this, or I want to bless you with that. It's not that I owe you this. The Lord doesn't owe any of us anything. In order for you to owe somebody, that means that they need to have given you something, or you need to be indebted to them. And the Lord is not indebted to anybody. Never was, never will be, never is. So it says, verse 36, it says, for of him and through him and to him are all things, to whom be glory forever. Amen. Okay. Barakatha Yahweh Ba'Hashem Yahweh Shai. So now let's deal with this. This is the book of Ecclesiasticus, chapter 39. So dealing with the, first off, for you to take passion and fully grow, you actually have to recognize and acknowledge the greatness of this knowledge and the beauty of the mercy of the Lord to give you the mind to understand it. And you have to cherish it, because when you do, you're gonna take it very seriously, and you're gonna always want to be embellished in it and grow, and you're never gonna get enough of it. So it says, verse 1, but he that giveth his mind to the law of the Most High, which is more than just the 10 commandments. It really goes into all the words of the Lord, all the precepts, all of it. It says, and is occupied in the meditation thereof. So when you're occupied, it means your time is spent on it, right? You don't have any more. If you go, like, you're on a plane, right? Or you go to a public restroom, and then it says occupied, that means that it is currently in use by something. It is not free. So when you are occupied, really, what is it that gets occupied? It's your time, along with, your mind, your attention, and all of those things. But it's really, it boils down to your time. So being occupied, right, in the meditation thereof means that you're spending your time on the word of the Lord. You're not occupied with something else. Now, what it doesn't mean that 24/7, 24 hours in a day, 7 days in a week, that's all you do. You don't eat, you don't breathe, you don't sleep. You just occupy with meditations. No. Because everything has to have a balance. But what it means is that one that is frequently meditating on the word of the Lord, has his mind and his thoughts filled with the work and the word of the Lord and the scriptures, that is what is referring to. And it says, and is occupied in the meditation thereof, will seek out the wisdom of all the ancient and be occupied in prophecies. Why? Because that's where your attention is going to be. And as your attention is there, you're going to grow. You're going to desire to know more. And it starts with trying to understand what it is that you are seeing and exposed to. And in doing so, It is going to lead to questions, which are going to lead to digging, which are going to lead you to other things. And the cycle begins again. You come across some information, you get curious, you try to understand it, so you ask questions and you start digging. And then you find the answer, but in the process, you come across new information. Then you ask questions, then you start digging, and then you find the answer, and then the cycle goes on and on and on. And that's how you grow. Because in order to understand certain pieces of information, you need to dig deeper. Every single time you need to dig deeper and dig deeper. And the deeper you dig, the more new things you find, which require you to then dig deeper. And in order to really understand these, we got to go back. Romans 15:4, for whatsoever things were written aforetime in the past were written for our learning. So, and I forget, I think it's in the book of Deuteronomy or in Isaiah. It talks about seeking the old paths and asking your fathers or the ancient, and they shall tell thee. So we're going to seek the wisdom of all the ancient. Because as where you would normally have, as time goes on, the wisdom would grow, right? The ancient will pass down their wisdom, and the youth would. So let's put it like this, right? You spend, maybe you live to be 90 years old, and at 90 years old, you've accumulated a whole lot of experience and a great deal of knowledge and wisdom and understanding. When you pass that on to your child, you are now given a youth 90 years worth of knowledge, wisdom, and understanding that they don't necessarily need to spend 90 years to accumulate. So you are already giving them a head start. And with that information, they can build on that. So by the time they get to 50 years or 60 years or 70 years or 80 years, they have now built, continuing from where you left off on that 90 years. All right. And they continue to grow. And then they pass it on to their youth, who now come in with a fresh start, and they have time to continue to grow. So in the ideal world, you're constantly learning and growing and expounding. But as we're in this society, it started to work in reverse, where you had the ancient, but as time went on, the practice of passing on the great deal of knowledge, wisdom, and understanding became less and less. And now what's being passed on is vanity and wickedness. So what does a wicked individual teach their youth? More wickedness. So that's why the generations become more and more wicked as time goes on. Right? The generations become more and more wicked as time goes on. Why is that? That is because they're passing on, the youth is now inheriting the wickedness, and then it is going on and on and on, further and further and further. Anyway, let's keep going. So it says, verse 2, he will keep the sayings of the renowned men, and where subtle parables are, he will be there also, because that is where his interest is going to lie. He will seek out the secrets of grave sentences and be conversant in dark parables. And what is that going to require? That is going to require diligence. It's going to require studying. It's going to require vigilance, diligence. Right? He shall serve among great men and appear before princes. He will travel through strange countries, for he hath tried the good and the evil among men. He will give his heart to resort early to the Lord that made him. See, in essence, what it's like is, if life is a game, right? Those that excel at the game are those that study, that learn, that read about others' experiences and these things. Because in essence, what that's like is like you learning the controls, learning the manual, learning learning the way to play the game, learning how others played the game in the past. So you pick up tips, you pick up tricks, you pick up all of these different things. So when you play the game and you come across certain areas, you don't need to spend 2, 3, 7 years trying to figure out, damn, how do I pass this level in life? and you keep on failing because you know, oh, well, actually, I know that, let me not make this wrong turn. You know, let me, I read about somebody that did something that wasn't in moderation, and it led them down a slippery slope. Why should I go and do that same thing out of moderation? Let me learn from him and their experience. I don't want to have to go down that slippery slope, because some people never came back from that slippery slope. So I'm gonna stick on the right path, and you know what? I'm gonna learn from his mistake. So when I come across such a situation in my life, I know the don'ts and the do's, and I can make a better judgment call based on that information, right? So it's easier to get through certain situations in life when you apply proper wisdom. It says he will give his heart to resort early to the Lord that made him. And will and like there's a scripture that says, put not off the Lord from day to day. Well, such an one as this will not even need to be told that, because he will give his heart, his mind, to resort early to the Lord that made him, and will pray before the Most High, and will open his mouth in prayer and make supplication for his sins. When the great Lord will, he shall be filled with the spirit of understanding, because the Lord is going to test you and try you and prove you and see, are you worthy of it? And if the Lord finds you, think about a stress test. If you make something, whether it's a cup or a vase or a bowl or a car or whatever it is, you make something for a specific use. What do? You test it. One of the last things you do is you test it before you use it, to see, is it good for what I've created it for? And when you can trust that, yeah, this is good quality, then you can use it. Okay? So it goes on, it says, when the great Lord will, he shall be filled with the spirit of understanding. He shall pour out wise sentences and give thanks unto the Lord in his prayer. Yeah, because just like King David did, such an individual as this will know that even though he may be held in high regard or high esteem, he may be accomplishing great tasks, a lot of people will reverence him. He knows that it is not of him. He knows that it all comes from Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai. He knows where his source is. And he knows that it didn't come from him. So it says, so he gives credit where credit is due. He gives thanks, praise, and honor where it is truly is. And he doesn't steal the praise of the Lord. It says, he shall direct his counsel and knowledge, and in his secrets shall he meditate. He shall shew forth that which he hath learned, and shall glory in the law of the covenant of the Lord. And if you don't learn anything, what are you going to show forth? Well, you will show forth something, but more than likely it won't be much, or it'll be something that's negative. Because learning goes beyond just knowledge. It goes also into learning best practices. Right? As a matter of fact, maybe that might be something, we can go into. Best practices of being a man of the Lord. There are best practices. Things that are sort of, unspoken norms. But these are things you should know what to do and know not to do. When to say certain things. How to say certain things. What to say when you're around certain individuals. How to behave when you're around certain individuals. And they're written all through the scriptures. When you read books like Proverbs, Ecclesiasticus, Ecclesiastes, Psalms, all they show you best practices. Just like when you're a child and you're taught manners. Don't chew with your mouth open, and all these different, say please and thank you and all of those things. So it says here, verse 9, many shall commend his understanding, and so long as the world endureth, it shall not be blotted out. His memory or his memorial shall not depart away, and his name shall live from generation to generation. Yeah, because that's the power of a name. That is why names are important. Names, you can think of a name, right? Just like you can think of a bottle as a container for liquid, or a bowl or a food flask as a container for food, right? Things have containers, and when you open it or when you grab it, it holds things. Well, that's sort of like how your name works. Think of your name as a container for all your works, for all your deeds, for all your memories, how people think about you, remember you. That is what your name does. So a name is more than just a word or a sound. A name invokes thoughts, feelings, memories, right? That is why a name is important. And your works sort of, what's the word I'm looking for here? They give meaning to your name. The things you do give meaning to your name. How will somebody remember you when they think of, whatever your name is? What are they going to think of? What are they going to think of what you've done? See, so as it says, his name shall live from generation to generation, because every time his name is mentioned, it invokes or calls to remembrance the things that he has done. Who is he? What has he done? All of these things, right? So it says, nations shall shew forth his wisdom. And it says, and the congregation shall declare his praise. Just like today, right? When you deal with certain famous men in the past, just like today, you have, whenever they talk about certain individuals, they speak about them, right? Like it says, the nation shall show forth his wisdom. So you don't need to have met a certain individual to know how wise he. We never met Daniel. We never met Yahushua. We never met, King Solomon. And yet we know how wise these men were. We know that they were blessed with great wisdom. How? An example of nations showing forth his wisdom are records, are accounts, are how others speak of them, are how they're reverenced. And in the nation of Israel, right, we show forth the wisdom of these great men. Even though they're not here, we haven't met them physically, to see it for our own eyes. It says, and the congregation shall declare his praise. If he die, he shall leave a greater name than 1,000. How many individuals are there that did different things, right? But if you take the name Moses, for example, right? When you take the name Moses, people hold that in higher regard than John Michelson, for example. Who the hell is John Michelson? Exactly. Right? Timmy Jones, JJ Rocks. And I'm sure these are maybe these are real people. I'm just making it up. But when you say Moses, people already instantly, if you say, yo, you know about Moses, right? You think they're gonna think of Moses Malone? No, there's one main individual that they're gonna think of. And there are many different individuals who go by the name Moses. But how come when you say the name Moses, there's really one main name that comes to mind? When you say Ezekiel, there are many different individuals that go by the name Ezekiel. And yet, when you say Ezekiel, instantly people will think of the Bible. Daniel. Right? So it says, if he die, he shall leave a greater name than 1,000. And if he live, he shall increase it. Why? Because when you're alive, say you live for 10 years, you do a lot of great things in 10 years, and then you die. Those great things are remembered, right? And you're praised and commended for it. But say you continued on that pattern and had you lived for 20 years, the glory or the fame of your name would have been increased more than it currently is, because you would add on to it. Right? Like I mentioned, the works that you do, they give a reputation to your name. And if you have more time, you would increase those works, those good works, which would increase the rep of your name, or the value, or the the praise. It says, verse 12, yet have I more to say, which I have thought upon, for I am filled as the moon at the full, right? A full moon. Which is, he's being parabolic or poetic. Hearken unto me, ye holy children, and bud forth as a rose growing by the brook of the field. Because what happens to a rose that grows by the brook of the field? It's nurtured, right? So it's gonna grow and it's gonna blossom fruitfully. And give ye a sweet savor as frankincense, and flourish as a lily, as a lily, which is one of the Lord's favorite plants, right? Flowers, if I'm not mistaken. I believe going back to, is it 2nd Ezra, the 5th chapter, around the 24th verse or so? It talks about the basically the Lord's choice, choice animals and people and plants and land and all of that. It says, send forth a smell and sing a song of praise. Bless the Lord in all his works. Magnify his name and shew forth his praise with songs of your lips and with harps. And in praising him, ye shall say after this manner, all the works of the Lord are exceeding good, and whatsoever he commandeth shall be accomplished in due season. And none may say, what is this? Wherefore is that? For at time convenient they shall all be sought out. At his commandment the waters stood as an heap, right? Let me finish. It says, and at the words of his mouth the receptacles of water, which when you go into the word receptacles, it deals really with like a container or containment or like a reservoir, in this case of water. But an example is back during the time of Egypt, right? When by the hand of Moses, through the spirit and power of Yahweh Bahasham Yahweh Shai, the Lord had the Gulf of Suez basically be split and allowed us to walk on dry land, in which on each side the water was raised up, as like a heap on one side, like a wall. It says, verse 18, it says, at his commandment is done whatsoever pleaseth him. That's why you fear the Lord, because he does what he wants. The true OG. It says, and none can hinder when he will save. You hear that? So, and this really is a faith booster, because if the scriptures say none can hinder, nobody can interfere or get in the way of the Lord when he will save. So if the Lord says, I got your back, that is literally, there's nothing that will hinder that. Doesn't matter what it looks like. Verse 19, the works of all flesh are before him, and nothing can be hid from his eyes. But see, the thing about human nature is it's easy for you to forget things. No matter how much you believe in it, how confident you are, it's still easy to forget when you're faced with something else that's fresh in your mind, that's before your eyes, that's putting different emotions into your mind, right? And that's why it's crucial to remember, to always remind ourselves. That's why these scriptures are written, okay? To remind us. That's why the Lord kept on repeating, I'm the God that brought you forth from the land of Egypt. To remind us, because if you look at when we got delivered from Egypt, and you say, wait a minute, didn't the Lord part the ocean, the Red Sea, the Gulf of Suez for us to walk on dry land? And you niggas turned around right back into niggas after that, because that's nature. People forget, regardless of how magnificent it is. So you have to constantly keep reminding yourself. And that is why it's important to keep reading these scriptures and meditate on the words of the Lord, because what? They will keep you in remembrance of those words that boost up your faith. Because when you go a long period without, it doesn't matter how boosted in the spirit you were when you read it, if you go a long period without reading it again, without keeping it fresh in your mind, you'll start to forget that feeling, that boost of faith that you felt. So you have to constantly keep going over it to keep your faith strong. Just like A sword that is not sharpened will go dull. You don't sharpen the sword once and that's it. It says, where we at? Yep, verse 19, it says the works of all flesh are before him, and nothing can be hid from his eyes. And that's what a lot of people tend to forget. You don't hide anything from Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai. Verse 20, he seeth from everlasting to everlasting, and there is nothing wonderful before him. Damn. Meaning there's nothing that will surprise the Lord. There's not what he created you. Everything you do, he's in control of it. What, you gonna pull a trick out of the trick bag? Wow. And the Lord's gonna be like, ooh, wow, I didn't know that existed. It's like when your child comes to you, and they like, they all excited and shit. Daddy, look what I can do. And then they just like stick their thumb, right? They touch, like they bend their thumb to touch their palm, and then they wrap it over with their 4 fingers. And then they're like, see, my thumb is missing. And then they just pop the thumb back up and see, now it's back. And to them it's like such an amazing thing. Wow, I can make my thumb disappear. I bet you didn't know that. And then you got to act all, wow, oh my God, where's the thumb? And you can clearly see the thumb right there. They're not even properly covering it, but you just entertain them to amuse them. Right? Well, sort of like that with the Lord. There's nothing that you're going to do that the Lord, oh my gosh, wow, that's incredible. Say what? That he's going to be shocked at. Nothing. Absolutely nothing. Oh man. And when you truly understand that, you realize how minuscule we really are, it shows you how merciful the Lord is, because everything he's doing is really just for his pleasure. Right? So it says here, verse 21, a man need not to say, what is this? Wherefore is that? For he hath made all things for their uses. Meaning, when you look at something, you may not understand why it's created, why it's there, but the Lord made it for a reason. So when you say wherefore, what's the point of this? Why would the Lord make that? Well, why do we even, sometimes, you may get upset, like these house flies, right? Fruit flies, whatever they call them, stupid ass, annoying ass flies that come around and shit. And you feel like, damn, like what's really, you just fly into somebody's room just to buzz around for what? But once again, they're created for a purpose. It says, verse 22, his blessing covered the dry land as a river, and watered it as a flood. As he hath turned the waters into saltness, so shall the heathen inherit his wrath. So you deal with like ocean water, right? And it's pretty much, it has salt. So in other words, as the sea inherits salt, so these heathens will inherit the wrath of the Lord. Okay. It says, verse 23, verse 24, as his ways are plain unto the holy, so are they stumbling blocks unto the wicked. And who determines who the holy and the wicked are? Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai. So he determines what, and that's why we tell you it's not up to us whether somebody gets it or not, whether somebody receives it or not. That's not up to us. Okay? That's all the spirit and power of Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai. Verse 25, and I ended off here. It says, for the good are good things created from the beginning, so evil things for sinners. Yeah, you have punishments for those that go off, and you have blessings for those that obey the Lord. Okay, and then there's that. So anyway, with that, I'm going to end it here. Lord willing, this is edifying to the elect. In closing, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahushai, Bahasham, Ruach HaKodesh. Until next time, Shalom.